How you doing?
Pretty darn good. Evening, Philip.
Hello, Brendan.
Welcome to the inaugural Fallout podcast. If you are here for news about Fallout Boy, the season, the fall, the famous Fallout video games, or that novel, what that band is named after, you're in the wrong place. But stick around, you might just learn something. Al is on his way. He's tying his shoelaces. He's on the bog, doing some washing up. Who knows where he is? So, without further ado, shall we tell these good people who we are before we tell them what we're here to do? Who are you?
Do me. Him.
You go first, Ezra.
All right then. Well, I'm Ezra. I first got into the fall when my esteemed Uncle David gave me a tape copy of Hex Induction Hour, which was an album that I liked a great deal. I guess it kind of metamorphosed into a full-blown obsession when my housemate in Tokyo, another great fellow known as Jeffrey, he played me the Peel Sessions version of Garden, which rocketed me into just total, how great is this band? And since then, I've just been pretty much obsessed. And I suppose that's about the size of it.
Splendid. Well, we know each other through a mutual friend. Big shout out to Dave. And hopefully we'll get to know each other much better in our shared fall obsessions. And who are you over there with the hat?
Hi, Brendan. I'm Mr. Hatman, or Phil. I'm the other half of Nolly Hall Chimp Testing Facility. And I also have been a Fall fan for a long, long time. I was thinking back, I think my first encounter was actually with Marquis Smith and the Spiral Carpets. I Want You in 94 when I was probably about 17. And I'm pretty sure they did a kids show on a Saturday morning. I'm pretty sure I saw it on that. But they were definitely the Top of the Pops thing, Top of the Pops when they were on that, which is just chaotic. And if you go on YouTube and check that clip out, you'll see Simon Mayo pulling a disturbed face at the end of the clip, which I think was my initial response to it, as in, what the hell is this? Some random strange bloke who's drunk has just got up on stage at the Spiral Carpets and started shouting over the music. But yeah, so it was a few years later when I actually got into them, but that was my...
It was a splendid introduction. So our friend Joberts, he was a huge Carpets fan. And I love the Carpets too, but I remember arguing about that one after it was on, and he was like, he ruined it. That fella, that Mark Smith. I mean, he knew he was, right? But he ruined it. I was like, no, he didn't. I say loose to a 2 stone and a waiter, so why do you look so fat? It's like, that's what you want on Top of the Pops, right? Our other chap's just arrived. Alistair, how you doing, young fella? You'll have to unmute yourself. The joys of Zoom.
You need to wind the machine up and put a 5p in.
I've just got some more coal on it. Usual technological problem from the Luddite from Pemberton. So, yeah, play a party again, I think.
So we're just telling each other who we are, because those people listening, they've got no bloody idea. So who are you?
I don't know.
Moving on. When he comes back.
Win this daring competition.
When he comes back. So, welcome to the world's best.
There he is. Well, the first thing I heard was, here he is. Yeah, well, bit of fall.
Auto cut up there.
Stuff I heard was on telly.
Brilliant.
I'll sign. You dirty. No, sorry, you dirty pie eaters.
Knowing you well, Alistair, I think that tells the people everything they need to know about you. So this is the world's best fall thing, aka Idiot Joyce Showland, aka This Nation's Saving Grace, aka And Your Granny on Bongos, aka Fall Reference. So what is it? It's going to be a showdown, a bracket style, what I nicked off a great podcast called The Malcolmus Conundrum, which is about Steve Malcolmus and not the Pavements. But what are you doing talking about bloody Pavement here 5 minutes into a Paul podcast? Well, I want to give those fellas their dues. It's a great show. And we've stolen their idea, which is, let's do a head-to-head. So there's about 500 fall songs out there in the mix. So it's going to take a bit longer than theirs will, but we're in it for the long haul. So we're going to look at about 4 different eras. So from about 79 to 85, 86 to 93, 94 to 2001, and then 2002 till the end. Various comings and goings of Bricks and other wives of Mark. Essentially, what we'll get today is about 12 songs, and we've done our homework. We've had a listen. There's a playlist up on YouTube if you want to Google the Fallout podcast with all the dots between the letters, because everyone's already used those words for everything else. But
there's no new letters anymore, isn't it?
It's now. We stopped at Z. We should have carried on like Dr. Seuss. Essentially, go have a listen if you want to. But up today is Elves versus Gramme Friday, Billy's Dead versus Tough Life Boogie, Quartet of Doc Shanley versus Shut Up, Greenway versus Senior Twilight Stock Replacer. Without further ado, shall we launch into our first showdown, which
I'm ready, Brendan.
I'm ready. Yeah.
So
It's much easier if you just avoid any attempt at professionalism. That tends to kind of.
So, Philip, I've put you up first because you're opinionated about these things. And just out there, if you're in listener land, these are just opinions. Obviously, the ones I'm expressing are correct, but for the rest of them, they're just opinions. So if you disagree, send us a Twitter tweet or a furious YouTube comment or whatever. But Phil, take it away. What's your thoughts on Elves?
So, generally, I like Elves. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because it sort of kicks off the 7th album, and it's quite obviously just in a Stooges tune. I thought it was an interesting full circle because the Stooges are a big influence on The Fall, and as the song progresses, the keyboard gets more important in it, and it sounds a bit more Dawsy to me as it kind of gets going. And obviously the Doors are a big influence on the Stooges. You get Morrison crooning in Iggy Pop and that, so I thought that was interesting. I thought the lyrics are brilliant. It's really poetic, Smithy stuff at his best. The sky in me has reached the shore. The fantastic is in league against me. So I generally really like it. It's got that Bricks, Rickenbacker, jingle jangle thing going all the way through it as well, hasn't it? Which was probably the most popular that the Fall ever got. So yeah.
Popularity, yeah. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for that opinion. Ezra, what do you make of this song?
Well, obviously, it's got one of the best riffs ever, which was nicked off the Stooges. According to the annotated Fall, Bricks just made it up off the top of a head, having never heard the Stooges. It's feasible. It's feasible. We'll see. It's feasible that the Queen's a shape-shifting lizard that drinks kids' blood. But yeah, I like it a lot, and I did create a cut-up of some of the lyrics, which I will now read. Before it's bad, never when of business arrangement. Nearly, it's the steel spitting on arrangement. Before all is against in bestial tree. No, Dunsymore. And that brings me to my final point. Dunsymore, which is not an actual real place, elevates this one to a kind of, well, like so many other Fall songs, it gives it some great mytho-poetic fucking resonance. Highly believable that there could be a place called Dunsymore, but there actually isn't. Maybe it's in our minds.
Beautiful. And Fall Bingo is going to come up. So if you notice anything, chaps, that you think is a recurring theme, note it down on Fall Bingo. I don't know if Made Up Places counts, but it might be in there. But thanks for that, Ezra. Al, what's your take on this? What's your hot take on this Stooges rip-off?
Yeah, it's a very nice song, and it's great. Nice little pop video as well to it. Is that the one where the pub in Prestwick?
No, that's Wings, isn't it? Where they're in the pub.
Yeah. But yeah, the Stooges thing, the repetition of it, that was very Foley kind of trait, wasn't it? So it is dead kind of relentless, like with like pushing the riff. I was finding it like one of the things about the Fall really good for walking music. You get like against that kind of like rhythm, and it's also sort of like seeing the world, but with this kind of commentary going on in your head. So a lot of it was like about sort of commentary, but he was slacking off people in the band and wives and stuff. Did he go into some sort of like Irish Rover type lyrics at the end of it? It was going like never no more.
There's a chant, right? There's a kind of chant which is a tick for the Fall bingo. That's the best part for me.
No, it's a good one. I really like it. If it was going to throw a number out of 10 for it, I'd give it a 7, for Fall kind of standards.
Yeah, not bad. I gave it a number initially, and then I upped that number the more I listened to it, because the first time it was like, yeah, this is I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges, even with the same like ding, 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 this same like chiming kind of hi-hat going through it. But the more I listened to it, I'm like, it's like, as Smith did, was like, he walked into the studio as they're playing something, a Spinal Tap song or some shit, and he's like, oh, I'll have that, and he just sings over it, and he just made it like, it's better than I Want to Be Your Dog, but it's not, but it is. So for me, I love that chant at the end, but the Elves have done some more, and he goes into his like mythical, almost like Robert Plant kind of fairyland, which here's him in nearly 85 hanging around with pop scum. The bestial breed is on the attack, the black can't run round the tree. And he's talked about how, and again most of this is cribbed from the annotated Fall, which is a great site. Hearted out trying to write about how all shitty Scottish groups are, and how Scottish groups always lecture everyone about they're from Scotland and how hard up they are. And I just try to make out this just as part of the national character of everybody. The fantastic is in league against me. I mean, it is splendid, but it is also I Want to Be Your Dog, so I don't know where I stand on that. So we do have actually another opinion from outside, from the spirit realm. Phil, I think you are our chosen medium today.
Yeah, I'm actually a magician, as you know, a wizard, and I'm initiated into the secrets of all kinds of spirit communication. And I was talking to my mate Invisible Stew, and he's given me the recipe for invoking the ghost of John Peel. But there was a slight problem, in as much as I only had about half the stuff for doing it, so it's kind of worked, but I've only got visual. So I did it last night, and we're coming up with a bit of a system, and he's just going to kind of mime it, what he thinks, to me, and I'll interpret it to the gang.
Well, I for one support that. No one could do the voice.
No, it was never going to happen.
Go on.
I couldn't hear him anyway. So he's here now. He's just having a custard cream, but he looks quite happy. So I'm thinking it's going to be a thumbs up, John.
Nice. So what I got written in sand and rice on the pavement outside my house was, this is one of the highlights of Waff Watfa, a sinister Stooges riff where Mark shows his growing paranoia, equating the music industry with the supernatural, and of course they are in league against him, just like Steve Albino, and Lauren Laverne will be years later. So Peel still knows his stuff, even from beyond the grave.
He's nodding now.
He's nodding.
That's right, yeah.
So there's our contractually obliged first song. So let's move on to the showdown. It is up against a song from Grotesque, a splendid album, my favourite, called Gramme Friday. Ezra, you're up. What are your thoughts on Gramme Friday?
Yeah, it's fucking sick. I mean, like you, I'm a big fan of the old Grotesques. Possibly, as been noted elsewhere, it might work better within the context of the album. At first, I was thinking Elves was the clear winner, but listening to Gramme Friday again and again, I've got to say it just edges it out.
Nice. Phil?
I am Robinson Speedo, and this is my Gramme Friday. I absolutely adore this. Grotesque, I think, is going to be a favourite album of us all, isn't it? But to me, this is like top draw fall. I love Scanlon's guitar work, and I think this is a great example of how he can sort of balance playing melodic parts of his kind of angry anti-pop and angular guitar kind of screechy noises. It's really got a sense of cabaret about it as well, I think, in the way they perform the song, the structure of it. They love to kind of hang around on certain bits, that repetition bit again kicking in. And I really love the production on all of that album, but this especially I think sounds great. So it's a double thumbs up from me. Yeah, I love it.
Splendid. Alistair?
Bloody great song in it. Yeah, it's another one of those. Again, great walking music. Get a good pair song with that kind of thing. But yeah, I really like the rockabilly kind of feel to it as well. Which, you know, it wasn't too much of a debate. It was just a kind of building up on things that were evolving quite a bit different in a lot of respects from either of it. But yeah, as Phil said, double thumbs up. Great stuff. It edges it for me over Elves. It's not a Stooges song.
That's kind of where I'm going.
The music's a bit of an odd one on this because it starts off quite dark and then it drops into like a Peter Gunn kind of bass line, which is a bit odd.
It kind of that guitar from Scanlon is what does it for me, but I also like tinny kind of production. I like the Dragnet stuff that comes up later is even more of that kind of like really thin lo-fi. I can't reach a decision on this. Can I get back to you on this? Hitler lost his nerve on it. Ting, there's a fall bingo, references to Hitler and the Nazis. Dr. Morell prescribed it well, and I am Robinson Speedo. Yeah, as you said, and this is my Gramme Friday. I didn't get the Robinson Crusoe reference until I read the annotated fall. I'd read, okay, I get it. And he's out on the town, and I think, I don't know if this is intentional, but things like Lie Dream of Casino Soul and all those, like, and the cover of Grotesque where they're in the nightclub and stuff, I don't know how much of it is kind of a bit of a concept about the nightlife. And then Mez's Screech, we talked in our chat last week, Ezra, in the fall, unrecorded fall cast 0 about the Screech. That's something that's well liked in your household. So it's coming down to it. It's not as easy as I first thought. So as there's 5 of us, we'll just get the opinion of the ghost of Invisible Stew, John Peel, and then the 5 of us will see which one of these bad boys is going through to round 2 and which will never be talked of again.
Oh, I'm getting a message from him. He's sticking 2 fingers up for Elves, and it's 1 finger for Gramme Friday.
So he is going. Let's see what the sand on the wall outside needs to say. It seems to say a low-key bit of menace from Grotesque, lots of drug and pop culture nods, but it doesn't really add up to too much other than a cracking bass line and some country-ish strumming. Works better in context. IMO or emo, which means potato, as we know. Wow. So let's vote. So we already know that Invisible Stew is going with Elves. I know you've kind of given the game away a bit, but let's cast our vote finally. So Ezra, which one are you going with?
I'm going to give Elves 2, going against my previous judgment, just because it's got all the occult shit. It's got weird kind of modulations of folk songs. It's just more redolent with history.
And you can have an extra point for that word redolent as well.
Oh, thanks.
And Smith pulls out some good vocab in today's songs, so I'll be on the lookout for that too. Philip, we've got Elves is steaming it here. Are you going to push it over the edge?
I'm a 2-1 kind of guy, but I'm going with Gramme Friday. That's my favourite on this, so it's my vote.
Good Lord, surely it's not coming down to me or Alpha to make this decision, because Al's already said where he's going, right? Al, just remind us where you're going.
Every Friday.
Boo la la. I am torn. But as they rip off I Want to Be Your Dog at least twice more in the catalogue, I'm going to go with Gramme Friday. So, make the screech. That's the sign that the first die has been cast, and we're moving right on to our second showdown, which is Bill is Dead versus Tuff Life Boogie. Insert audio clip now. Alright, you just imagined listening to that audio clip. So, Alistair, you are up first. Bill is Dead.
That's one I know quite well, really. I was aware with Extricate when it was released. It was probably the first new fall release thereof. Yeah, I really love the song. Great little story. It sounds like he's having a right dig at Brit. It might not be. But yeah, there's quite a bit of personal stuff with me versing a load of shit, kind of usual Mark Smith treatment. Really like the dead low key as well. And it seems to be one of the first ones that he kind of sings on. Oh, well, you don't hear him singing on many. He actually seems to be singing on it. So, yeah, that was quite good. I don't think it was a single, but I think it should have been. But, yeah, I really like the keyboards on it, the way that's sort of like dead minimal all the way through, kind of like repetitive. Nice rhythm with the guitar, low-key drums, nice bass. Nothing to complain about, really.
Phil?
I love Billy's Dead. It's one of my favourites. I think it's really unusual, like Al was just saying, because he just comes across as being totally sincere in it, and I'm just not used to listening to sincere Smithy. It's like there's no edge of irony about anything at all. It's like he's just being upfront about it, and it also plays into my pet theory about the fact that he's actually a Mancunian Serge Gainsbourg. I think it really, really echoes loads of Serge Gainsbourg stuff, production-wise. The types of lyrics that he uses, is the way he sings about it, even the kind of dirty old man lyrics that he has going in it. It just reminds me of Serge Gainsbourg, who I have loads of respect for anyway. So yeah, I love Billy's Dead. It's great.
Nice one. Ezra?
Interesting that Phil should bring up the Surges, because it put me in mind of Scott Walker, who's a person that I'm very fond of. I think this is a great song for weddings and funerals, and I'd like to have it played at least one of mine. Here's the cut-up. In number my life, and if high, two had thrice. Legs I renewed, I am red, and the streets as came my last feet, my eyes, these. I think it's pretty fucking unbeatable.
It's beautiful. It is an outlier. Could it go all the way? There's not much like it in the catalogue. He does sing softly on a few other songs. There's not many. Maybe Edinburgh Man and The Mixer and a few of those quieter ones, but there's nothing else like it. I read somewhere that it started off as a Smith's Piss take, and they started off trying to do singing about, oh, and then he just realised it was really nice and he was going to try and actually sing some meaningful lyrics. Yeah, he has a heart and a soul on this. It's one of the few ones where he doesn't talk about drugs. He talks about getting high, and there's not much about that. It's about the feeling of that. Marcia Schofield apparently on the keyboards. I don't know much about her. I don't know how long she was in the band or stuff, but so yeah, last week after Dynasty I had crow's feet round my eyes, got pasted in a bar. These are the finest times of my life. I mean, is it about suburban bliss? Is it about hating bricks, loving bricks? It's a topsy-turvy world out there with some Beefheart and Zappa references in the lyrics, but I've got a feeling we'll get a good chance to talk about Billy's Dead a lot more. So let's see what Invisible Stu's got to say. Phil?
I was just looking at John then, and he's pulling a very weird face, so he thinks it's very weird, but I think he's emailed you on the Psychic Rice paper.
He has. What he's written in, it's kind of like Braille, Rice Braille. This is a fucking weird song. An 80s pop smoocher made it by a demented pervert, apparently somehow associated in the mind of Smithy with the death of his father. He certainly doesn't sound like he's having too much of a good time when he says he is.
Controversial stuff.
It's beautiful. I can't disagree with it. I've got a feeling this showdown might be a little bit easier, so we move on to Tough Life Boogie from Friends Experiment, 1988, the high point for all pop culture. So, Ezra, I think we're back to you, although I have lost track of who's going first. So, you're
Tough
up.
Life Boogie. All right. I'm actually struggling to remember it already, despite having heard it at least 4 times in the week.
Tough life meant for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I would say, like phrase, it's kind of stock for the fall. I like the bit about running away with a bald man, and that's about all I have to say on the subject.
Fair enough. That's probably more than it needs, to be honest. Al?
Kind of me a bit of the Happy Mondays. For some reason, there was just like I think probably like Monday's bump kind of era. It's kind of been going on in the same city, really. Kind of like says a lot about the Manchester music scene in some respects. But not one of the finest offerings. So
You take what you're given with this game.
It's very poppy, isn't it? It's like a folk pop song, and that always reminds me of something I read about the Monks as being a band unable to write a conventional pop song, and I think it falls into that kind of category, really. But it's weird because they know what they're doing. Smith obviously knows pop music; he knows the rules of the game, but he just does it his own way, doesn't he? But I mean, it's not top drawer stuff, but the more I listen to it, because I listen to everything a few times, because you can never make your mind up off one listen, can you? And it's very single-ongable. It's one of those, isn't it, where after you've heard it a couple of times, the hook really gets into your head. But yeah, it's not my favourite folk kind of stuff.
It's pretty poor, to be honest, but I have to say it's the one I've been singing most this week. Tough Life Boogie, and I'm like, that's really bad. It's horrible. It's like, and it's got
one more time.
It's got Brick singing in the background. I think in a better life, it could be a half decent Royal Truck song with the two of them singing along, with the but it's not that. It's awful. But I do think where he says your goth slag brain. So we're, once again him like can it be about anything other than Bricks? And then she's singing on the track. So it's like reminding me of those songs like with the Who, where like he would write bad stuff about Roger Daltrey, and then Daltrey would have to sing it. It's like, I don't know if that's even true. I might have made that up. But the bit at the end where it says, "Give it to me, baby, one more time," I actually quite like that. If it was just that over and over again, I think it would be a better song. But what does Peel have to say on this?
We're going to try a different system because he's tapping his foot like Mr. Ed now.
Okay.
So it's three taps for Billy's Dead.
I'm kind of getting the vibes, and I'm filtering it through the ether, and it says "Tough Life Boogie, just fucking terrible."
He doesn't pull his punches, Peel, does he?
Peel, Invisible Peel does not pull his punches. So do we even have to go through? Let's just raise our hands. Let's just do it invisibly, and the listeners will just have to trust me that I'm counting correctly. Hands raised for Billy's Dead. Hands raised for Tough Life Boogie, and I'm not going to tell you who won. So you just can. Al stood up, so he's giving he's giving Tough Life Boogie a sympathy vote. So Billy's Dead makes it through easily into the second round. So we move on to our third showdown: the Quartet of Doc Shanley off Levitate and Shut Up. What's that off Middle Class Revolt, right?
Yep.
All right. Al, you're up. We got Doc Shanley first. What are your thoughts on the Quartet of Doc Shanley?
Yeah, it's all right. Well, like drums dead busy, very good, but dead busy. I just think it would suited being a little bit more kind of straightforward and North Will Rise again, kind of just dead straight back kind of beat, just to give it that kind of blood to it. Maybe it'll broken it up a little bit more. You find the intensity, the drumming on it, but dropped it back a little bit at times as well, just to give it a bit more of an interesting structure. But yeah, it's a good song. It's not one that I knew very well though.
Yeah, cheers. So Levitate, yeah, what was that, like turn of the century, was it? I don't know. Was it? Yeah, it slipped by a lot, but actually it was the first fall record I actually bought in real time. I was working at Omega Music, which you might remember, Al, from down Wigan Way. And yeah, so I've got here that I think Shanley refers to Steve Hanley, which is why maybe the bass is like featured in it. And you've got Julia Nagel who popped up to be, we won't say the token lady in the fall because that's not okay. Her voice comes onto it quite a lot though, and I think she brought some programming to the fall, which they might not have had before. This was around the time where he got hit with like a big, like $250,000 tax bill, and they had to go out on a lot of tours and pump out albums. So I'm not sure how much they were feeling this Levitate album. This is kind of essentially, it's that one off the album that's the spoken word one, the weird one, the cut up garbled one. Apparently, the bass line is from Crazy Horses by the Osmonds, which makes sense when I listen to it again. And that's a good Osmonds song, but yeah, I don't mind it, but it didn't do a huge amount for me. Phil?
So I this is again, it's another flavour of fall stuff, isn't it? Where it's you kind of approach stuff more like collage rather than fine art, and I quite like this. It's all about atmosphere rather than any kind of narrative. And if, like me, you are a complete and utter pranny, you will you get into it because it feels like it's asking to be decoded. It feels like it's all sort of secret messages in it that you kind of have to piece together yourself. And I quite like that. And it is a decent bass line, and it left me feeling warm and fuzzy inside. Yeah, it was good.
Nice. I'm glad it did that for you, Phil. I wouldn't have thought that was your kind of bag, but maybe we'll learn something about each other in this thing, as well as the
learning and sharing, isn't it? It's exactly. A growing experience.
No hugging, no learning. Ezra, what's your take on this?
I think it's an ace tune. Levitate is a fall album with a special place in my heart. I think it's got a very distinctive and unique sound amongst a plethora of albums which all have distinctive and unique sounds. At one point, it sounds like he's almost about to rip into The Guardian, as everyone should, but then he realizes it's beneath him. So he just says The Guardian and then coughs or something. It's got some great lyrics. One of my favorites was, I must feel like starting on page 154. So I think all in all, it's a grand piece of music.
Interesting. It's getting a lot more love than I thought it would. But yeah, actually, Levitate being the first fall album that comes into your hands bought with your own real money. That's where I'm at. And the cover reminds me of The Man with the Stick from Vic Reeves, which is also, you know, like, it was only years later when I looked at it and thought, I mean, obviously it's not The Man with the Stick, but for years I just went with it. That's what it was.
Did the Man with the Stick, did he ever get his children back from the shark testing for Volvo?
I've no idea. I know he had a horrible experience on holiday. Philip, what do we have from Beyond the Grave?
It's I'm just tuning into him now because he looks quite happy. He's giving it a thumbs up. He's doing sort of German impression, I think he thinks it's a bit krautrocky. He's probably, I'd check the rice paper now.
The rice paper quite clearly spells out krautrock here, Phil, so you definitely you're picking up the vibes. I like it. This is more like it, he says. Lots of krautrock influence here. I love it when Later Day Fall took their garage rock influences and mixed them with their other fancies into this sort of chugger. Great odd narration, nicely buried. Oh, maybe he knows something more about those lyrics than we do, but is this the one that goes on about Pentangle 5 and Pentagon, or is that the other one off Levitate that we come to later? I don't know. I didn't write it down. But anyway, let's move on to what it's up against, which is only a bloody Monks cover. Shut up. Phil, while you're on a roll, why don't you take it?
Okie dokie. Well, I'm assuming we're all massive. I know Alan and you, and I'm assuming you, Ezra, are a big Monks fan. It's a great tune. But to be fair, I don't really think they do anything with it. It's very sing-alongy, isn't it? As soon as he gets into his stuff, you can't help but sing along with him doing that type of thing. But it's one of those covers where I think they're phoning it in a little bit. So it's drunk and raucous and fun, but it's not anything amazing.
Aye. Alistair, what's your take on this hot mess?
Does he mix up a few lyrics from different Monk songs in it? Yeah. I preferred like Monk theme cover. Thought that was a little bit better on. That's it. It's a cover. Bit with rest.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that pops up. The cover, they loved him, and they were split between those ones where it seems like he really loved him and did something great with like I'm a Mummy or I'm Going to Spain and things like that. That had the charm, and then like this one, which just feels like a slog.
They could have actually, if they'd have wanted to, just churning out for churning out's sake and making a bit of money, just covered the Monk's LP. There you go. Monk's fans will buy it, Fall fans will buy it. Probably be a very mixed reception on it,
Yeah, pay that tax bill. Yeah.
I actually really like this. Yeah, it's the first time I've heard it. First time I've heard anything off that album. Obviously, I love a bit of a Monk. It's got some weird kind of psychedelic spaghetti thing going on through the production. It sounds like the voice in my head at 4 a.m. when I'm out raving in, a parking lot outside a supermarket or something. So yeah, I really liked it.
Nice. It's good to get a variety of opinions. I think in this first round we'll all be nicey to each other because the choices might be a bit easier, but I'm hoping for some real School of Hard Knocks punch-ups once we get into the second and third rounds. Middle Class Revolt, aka the vaporization of reality. I've written it's wah-wah, distorted, functional rocker from an era of covers. They seem to do a lot of covers around that. It's like padding out their albums with not always great covers. There was someone from the Enemy said they were professionally incompetent, true punk artisans making masterpieces sound like demos, which I kind of like. I've written, shut up, I love the Monks, I love the Fall, this is shit. So that's my take on this. And have we got anything from beyond from through the ether?
It was when Alistair mentioned about the lyrics thing, Peely was nodding furiously, and I think it's Pig-a-Lie. Keep going into.
Okay, good.
Again, it came to me, it was like Guy Bunny or Stars on 45, which was, it was like, hey, because that's something that he's gone about in Stars on 45. And it's the same kind of format where you just take like a bunch of stuff and mash it together. So there was a little bit of an irony in it,
I did not predict that Jive Bunny would get referenced there.
So what we got here, Shut Up, the Monks mangled, a good stomper on a relatively poor album lacking in ideas. I like how dense the sound is. He actually keeps breaking out into hickle-da, pickle-da, which they actually covered around the fall heads roll period. It outstays its welcome a bit. I think he's on the money there. In fact, he's been solid from start to finish as old Peely. So this is going to be the last vote of the day. Obviously, we hope to do 8 showdowns, and we managed to stumble through 3. So this podcast may take the best part of the decade. Our children may have to take over this, but let's do it. Let's do it justice. Let's do it right. So let's vote on Doc Shanley, the Quartet of Doc Shanley, or Shut Up. Phil?
It's Doc Shanley for me.
Okie dokie. Ezra?
As much as I love Shanley, I would be banking on some other tracks from Levitate getting further on, so I'm going with Shut Up.
Splendid. Alistair?
Shanley.
Thank you, Mr. Shanley. And I think Peel, Invisible Peel, has also gone for Shanley, and I am going to round out that route of 401. But Ezra, I'm glad that you stuck up for your principles and for paying Marquis Smith's tax bill through Monk's covers.
Well, I think the prefab karaoke aspect of the covers, some of the covers, is really a great fucking asset to the whole band.
Oh yeah. I think so. I think that is once you start looking at it, there's so many of them. It's like 50 covers. it's like, and a lot of them are pretty good, and a lot of them are awful. So the rule I said is if we were after 20 past, we wouldn't start another one, but it's 18, so I think we can squeeze the fourth one in if we got the energy. So we're coming down to Greenway, our first Sats GB, and Senior Twilight Stock Replacer off that wax one, what was late, and had a nice gnarly sound to it.
It's good enough for you. It's good enough for me. It's good enough for you. It's good enough for Richard. It's good enough for Richie Sells.
Alistair, am I picking you first every time? You are you're my favourite, but
You're my favourite as well, Brendan.
Greenway.
I'm assuming that's a reference to Mr. Barney Greenway.
I believe it's Peter Greenway who was playing guitar for the Fall at that time.
Right, was it? Right, just because of the style of it. I thought they were going for a bit of a kind of thrashy sound, so it was like I was thinking Barney Greenway and Earthbound Death. Probably not. No.
Go with it, Al. Go with it.
Because I was in that train of thought, I was just like, it's a bit, maybe a piss take sort of like death metal song. I mean, what Tyler did, I pledged my allegiance to, and that was like far better. Similar kind of sound to it. It's like they got a distortion pedal and turned it up a bit. Yeah, I wouldn't take it.
Fair enough, Al. Fair enough. Ezra, what's your thoughts on Greenway?
Thought it was very hilarious. I've never heard the Fall sound like a heavy metal band, and so that tickled me pink. I think the humour in the Fall is, they're one of the few bands that I'll listen to and I'll laugh out loud. This was the one with wanking off the dog to feed the cat as well. So that, I saw that he pilfered that lyric, but I wouldn't anyone, it's a real slice of life there. Obscene gestures from the host, for those listening. I thought it was a hoot, basically.
Splendid. Philip? Sorry, I've muted you all without telling you, which I will periodically do, so.
I like that. It keeps us on our toes. I cannot take this record seriously at all. It's awful on every level. His voice, putting on a comedy voice, it reminded me of, I can't remember the guy's name who played him, but you remember Uncle Peter's routines on Vic and Bob?
Yeah.
It reminded me of his, and a slice of that cake over there, that routine. It was like he was kind of channeling Uncle Peter over the top of some horrendous thrash record.
Al, go on. Who was it? Who played Uncle Peter? You were a big fan of him, right?
Charlie Chuck, I tell you, I saw him live once, and he was just like getting ready for doing a tour. He was at the Citadel, and he did his set, and then he went on for about an hour afterwards, just fucking insane. Like, just going mad on his drum kit, look back for Bow Wow, all that kind of stuff. What? And it's like the intensity in his face at times, and he's dribbling. Yeah, he was good.
Belting. So this is this made me laugh out loud this morning when I was listening to the Super. There's not many Fall songs that actually make me laugh. Basically, this is another one where the band was playing a track and Smith jumped onto. So they were playing some cover of a Greek heavy metal band apparently, which is why it's a shitty heavy metal rip-off. So the music is awful. But then he just comes in and he goes, what did he say? It's like a channel hopping the other day. And then he goes into this comedy rant that's apparently about the New Puritans, that shitty band. Oh, they're not terrible, but they're not one of my favourites. And they're named after a Fall song by the sounds of it.
There's a bit in it where he said, I was watching the telly and there was somebody on this video that was just like me. This kind of paranoid rant about everybody nicking his stuff and his style.
But apparently, like I saw the video, I looked into. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on the annotated Fall on this one, and there's a video by the New Puritans that is just like Berry when it's all the black and white stuff. So I think either he's well off, and these annotated Fall people are putting stories to madness, or he actually is talking about that band. Because then he goes on to say, what does he say? I decided to visit. He tried to ask them for a CD player, and they wouldn't give him one. And he says, I decided to visit their room. There was a pile of chairs behind the door, and their tone was snotty and offensive. They get right on my nose. It's just like, it's hilarious, but just the music, like it's up there with the Pete Tong stuff off whatever that song is, right? It's like, it's hilarious, but the fucking choice of that backing track, just terrible choices. All right, what are we hearing from Beyond the Grave, Phil?
Remember to switch the mute off this time. Right, okay. Keely, what do you reckon? He's nicked the Starker out the freezer and he's punching it. So I'm taking that as a negative. I think it's a Greek reference, isn't it? That, but he's very not happy.
It's very clear from the stars that he's not liking this one. So moving straight along to Senior Twilight Stock Replacer. A good old chant there. We haven't seen the likes of for years. Ezra, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, as I said, it's a fucking banger. I feel like if I was going to assign a genre to the fall, it would be gang rock in the style of like the MC5 or the Shangri-Las, and with the best tracks, you've got, the band on backing vocals, the wife giving a counterpoint to his vocals, and you just get the feeling of an extremely unpleasant group of people. And it's just great. Senior Twilight Stock Replacer, which is a kind of supermarket job where you replace stock in Twilight. And finally, it's got the lyric, Big Dave is omnipresent in Trafalgar, which I presume is a reference to the 2000 AD character.
Yeah.
I mean, what else could it be? That's just, I don't know. It seems that way. So yeah, this is like at least 6 thumbs up from me.
Nice. I think he references comics on a bit of a tangent from time to time, but he never directly references them unless he was just watching Cameron on the news. But this is Cameron's era, so it could have been a Cameron / 2000 AD reference. Who knows? I like to think that he was getting his hands on the ABC Warriors and the likes. Who knows? Phil Rigby, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I wrote some notes. I was just looking at what I'd written for this one. I thought, great chorus, great riff, makes you want to start kicking stuff and walking like a mank. And it's good, solid meat and potato ball stuff, isn't it? It's a great. That's very good. Yeah, big chunky meaty riff and sing-alongy chanty chorus on it, and talking about the kind of blue collar concerns. Yeah, classic folk and stuff.
Nice, Alistair.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty great. Nuts and Med rocks out, repetition. So again, it's like Phil was saying with the meaty riff, just like the whole thing with the repetition. Yeah, I mean, like Velvets used to do that, lots of Sister that kind of thing, do the riff to death, like. But yeah, the disco beat was great. I wasn't sure if you felt it was about the Twilight Stock Replacer, but like some of the hierarchies within the sort of work environment and the jobs list, and I scribbled down foregrounds, like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. Yeah, but really, really good song. Yeah, very, very good fall song.
Splendid, and I'm hoping, I mean, one of the reasons I split it into 4 eras is so that we wouldn't get it heavily to all that classic stuff that we all love and grew up with. And the hope is that a lot of that later era stuff will get its moment in the sun, and it'll make a good chunk of the way through as well. And this is musically, that kind of fuzz bass tone, that's spot on. Obviously, Robert Pollard's out there wishing he'd thought of that title for a Guided by Voices song, but too late, it's been taken. So yeah, multiple perspectives and a good old chant going on, but it didn't really do it for me as a song. I quite like the tone of it and stuff, but it didn't win me over. What I did like is that where Smith just comes in on the dictaphone like 5 times louder about 30 seconds in or something, which is another fall trope where you got this backing track going on at a certain volume and then a keyboard or a vocal line will come in 5 times louder. Sounds like we mixed it, Phil. All right, so last thoughts there from our friend on the other side.
Well, he's smashed up all this moussaka on my floor, but he's written in it an excellent way to open a gig and keep everyone entertained until Mark decided to get us on stage finally. Decent and fun. It's quite pithy.
Yeah, and I think they like to have a few of those where they could just do a bit of a bass drums workout for 5 or 10 minutes while Smith found his way out of the dressing room and off down the street and
biting a road.
Exactly. Occasionally managed to find his way to the stage where he spent the next 7 or 8 minutes turning up the knobs on their bass amps and essentially, what I think they did with that is I think they had a fake front on those amps so that the fella on the back, on the sound guy, could just keep the level the same no matter what he did to those knobs. Point him towards that box in the corner and he can twiddle those knobs for a bit. He doesn't notice that nothing's happening to the sound.
Well, the drummer used to stick a secret mic in the bass drum.
Nice. Right, so this is going to be our last vote of the day. We have, it's coming down to... And I think I might be outvoted, sadly, on this one. Greenway versus Senior Twilight Stock Replacer. Ezra?
Hoots aside, it's got to be the Senior Twilight Stock Replacer for me.
I guessed as much. Phil?
Senior Twilight Stock Replacer.
Now, is that your vote, or you still got time to change? Alistair?
Stock Replacer, please.
And Peel made his speculations very clear, and so it is a 4-1 rout there. Maggie Thatcher, Princess Diana, your Greenway took a hell of a beating. So there we are. We finished. We survived. It's 8:31. We're going to call it there with some music. Any last words for the listeners? The listeners who made it this far. Please come back. Please come back. Or don't. You're grown-ups or children or in between. I don't know who you are. But anyway, any final words for them?
Yeah. Despite any of the views that I may have espoused, I firmly believe there's no such thing as a crack track by the Fall.
Splendid. We'll put that to the test over the next few weeks, Ezra. We'll see when you're saying that by episode 4. Phil?
We're all winners, really, aren't we, at the end of this? It's all about the taking part, apart from the wrong opinion.
Exactly. Alistair?
No.
Fair enough. And the ghost of John Peel?
He's just waving at you.
Just a slight rustling in the bushes. All right, well, thanks very much.
Sorry, any tips with cleaning up ectoplasm?
I don't know. You shouldn't have spilt it there in the first place, mate.
Probably in the kitchen, I'm just wondering if Phil's got any tips there with Peely hanging around.
Hello, pal.
And on that bombshell, we'll see you all. Cue exit music.
Best thing in the world. And clean shaven, your mind into a light pink scarlet smooth.